about the ruchnistic idea of nafscheinu B'chaim, to be able to explain what is the spiritual meaning that he places our nefesh into life. If the nefesh anyway is essentially alive, what does it mean that it has to be placed in life? And to explain this, he started saying that at the beginning of creation, there was the shleimus of Teva, nature the way it was in its most perfect state. And even though nature was in its most perfect state, ha'olam ha'beluy nivra, the world was created perfectly and completely. Still in all, Adam Rishon came, and Adam Rishon is not just Adam Rishon, but that's really every Yid is this way, that every Yid's job is, even though there is the perfection of nature, the perfection of the creation, the world awaits in the state of Gan Eden before the Chet Eitz Hadas, a Yid comes, like Adam Rishon comes, and brings a higher level that is beyond the perfection of nature, of that the world was created in the most perfect state. So to explain this, he's going to explain nature and the perfection of nature versus a higher level. So again, we're holding on the fourth page of the copies, page Tes, Ois Daled, line 7. We'll be the Indian to explain this matter. Also in nature, there's the way the matter is in its perfect state. What does that mean? So the Rebbe is going to trace this back to the ruchnistic thing, the ruchnistic type of revelation that causes and brings about that nature in the physical sense is in its most perfect state. He says, will be understood according to what's explained in the continuation of from the Sefer known as Sefer HaKedah, Sheshtei Hanhagis Shemehem Efsher Lilmid Gadlus HaBoyd. There's two ways how Hashem runs the world, that from them, those two different ways, those two distinct types, we're able to derive the greatness of the Creator. From the way how the Eibishter runs the world according to nature, and from the way the Eibishter runs the world in a miraculous way. So he goes on to explain what the idea behind this is. Concerning the way Hashem runs the world based on the rules of nature, it says, raise up your eyes above, upwards, and see who created these things. So in other words, you don't just obviously are seeing the creation, but you're seeing the Creator from the creation. That we see that these are the histories of the heavens and the earth when they were created. So bihibaram, we know the Chazal say bihibaram is a remez on the idea shem chazakim kiyom hibaram. When we raise up our eyes to heaven now and we look at nature the way it's around us, we see that they are as strong as the day they were created. Behind this means though they are created entities, and though they have a boundary and a limitation, so therefore seemingly they in and of themselves would not indicate the Creator because they are limited and etc. Still in all, Mikol Mokim, Yeshnoi Kiyum HaNivroim B'min Oigam B'ish. There is still the ongoing existence of created being either in species or in the actual entities. In other words, we find that the entities, the actual sun, the moon, the stars, all the heavenly bodies are in existence just as they were at the beginning of creation. And when it comes to the earthly existences, their species are continuing. All the birds are still here, all the animals, etc., etc. In other words, we see a power that there is in the creation that is supernatural. Because for something to keep on existing is an unnatural state. The state of things is that they deteriorate and they cease. And still in all, even though they should deteriorate and cease, they don't. That is a sign of the Creator. That's what it means. Another example of this same concept, but taken from a different aspect of creation. So he says in line 18, the general way, the way that nature runs, is in the way they don't cease. Nature does not change. The sun will always rise in the east and always set in the west. You can literally count on it. There's no doubt whatsoever. Consistency is something that is, in a way, unnatural. It's supernatural. The fact that the world is consistently the same way, that spring comes, and all the natural laws is something that we see the godly hand involved. In this we see the greatness of the Creator, like the Rambam wrote, what is the path? What is the means? How can a person be Mekayim, the mitzvahs asay of loving Hashem and having fear and awe of Hashem? So what a person does is, like we said before, raise up your eyes to the creations and look at them. That is when the person meditates and contemplates the great doings and the great creations that Hashem made, the wondrous creations. Like the expression is in the pasuk, how great, meaning in quality or in size, are your doings, are your makings, are the things that you created, and how many, meaning there's so much of your makings, Hashem. This is the greatness of the Creator that we see in your doings, meaning the lowest aspect, the idea of action. So this is the greatness of the Eibishter we see in how nature runs. It's explained in many places, and also in that series of Amorim from Tavrei Samach Vav, top of page Yud. The source of this aspect of Hashem, the aspect of Hashem of running the world according to the laws of nature, comes and begins with the line that came after the Tzimtzum Rishon. Its upper end of that line, the upper top of that line, reaches as high as the great circle that encompasses all of creation. But despite the fact that it touches and it emanates from such a high level, but it is drawn and is descends in a way of a narrow line or a short line. Because of the minimization of the kav, the limitations of the kav, comes out from it the way how nature runs in a ordinary fashion, in a normal fashion. True, it's in the most highest way. In other words, it runs in the greatest way possible. It's still running in a way according to measure and boundaries. So even though we said it's an indication of Hashem's running the world, but at the same time, it's the way Hashem runs the world within certain confines, within certain limitations, within the rules of nature. And in general, this way how Hashem runs the world within the rules of nature, this is the level of godliness that fills the world. As there comes also in the world in the way of olam. Then an emphasis on the word olam, because it's the word olam indicates concealment and covering. What is it concealing? This level of the world's Alein Sof, on the infinite light of Hashem. So we're seems to be speaking from both sides of our mouth. On the one hand, we're saying this is an indication of Hashem's greatness, and you recognize Hashem's creation and running of the of nature and Hashem's power and control. On the other hand, you're saying it's concealment. So he says, yes, both of them are true. Line 8, V'hainu, though by looking and examining nature and contemplating nature, you recognize that there is someone that owns, someone whose building this belongs to, who the world belongs to. That this recognition is coming not because you're seeing Hashem. It's because you're seeing the way nature runs in an ongoing fashion. It doesn't cease and so on. From the way nature runs, you could even have recognition in Hashem's immutability. The fact that he doesn't change. I am unchanged. Where do you see it? Because from Hashem's unchanging nature, from Hashem's aspect of unchanging, that's how it comes down in nature, the idea of the lack of change, in a way that it will not cease, that the world does not cease. Like we said before, the laws of nature do not cease. Like we said, the sun rises always in the east, etc. And the chazakim kiem bottom, and the sun, the moon, the stars are as strong as the day they were created. Where does this come from? It's not just it comes from, but it manifests, and it gives us insight. If the creation that Hashem made is unceasing and unchanging, from this we derive that Hashem is truly beyond change, beyond those type of limitations of change over time. This itself, the fact that you need to have a lack of change to prove, the lack of change of creation proves about Hashem's Aniyah V'Eloi Shenisi. It's because it's relating to a level that change would be applicable. Why? How can change be applicable? Because we're not talking about the Ein Sof, we're talking about Mamal Klam, Kivin Shazel Inshal Medidav Agbola. Since we're dealing with a godly life force that is already limited and has a boundary, therefore change would be possible, and still in all it's unchanging. So the Rebbe, as many times when he talks about different levels, he right away tries to apply it, what that means by us in our service. Since the creation of the world is for the sake of Yidden, like it says, that in the beginning Hashem created the heavens and the earth. And why does it say Bereshis? The Chazal say this was created for the Yidden that are called Reishis. So therefore, we must say that this idea of nature and the perfection and the ultimate level of nature, this perfect state of nature that we spoke about earlier as well, is also to be found in the service of a person, that he serves in a way of nature. Because since my entire being, of my entire reason I was created was only to serve my Maker, so it must be reflected in who I am. In the way the world runs, according to the way the person acts in accordance with Torah mitzvahs. That is the corresponding level to Hashem creating and running the world in the way of nature. It says, Hainu havoida pitam vadas avoida, that is based according to reason and understanding. Shagam ba yesh milos gdolos neflois, top of page Yud Aleph. Even when our avoida is based on tam vadas, there are great qualities and wondrous advantages and so on. This is the general idea of the avoid of tzaddikim. Tzaddikim is not something to poo-poo. Their avoid is apitam v'das. Kol gam takos hashleim shel tzaddik, including also the ultimate perfect state of a tzaddik. Avoida that's based on reason and understanding. Therefore, it's called even by the tzaddik that he has the nature to serve Hashem this way. And this is the way it comes on afterwards in the chain descent of the worlds, that there is the nature of the world. And why is it called by a tzaddik, the serving Hashem based on reason, it's called nature? That's his nature. His nature is to serve Hashem. So the corresponding level to the Eibishter running the world in a way of nature is the tzaddik that serves Hashem in the way of nature. So now he's going to go back to the creation and then go back to the avoid, the corresponding level in avoid. Line 7. But higher than this is the way that how it's a miraculous way how Hashem runs the world. Why is it called miraculous? The word miracle is related to the idea of the word for a flag. I will raise the flag upon the mountains. So what does that indicate about the idea of miracles? Miracles is the idea of raising up, elevating. What does that mean? Just like there's the way Hashem runs the world. That is out of things, the way it's drawn down in a way that's measured and bounded. That's a general idea of the godly light that fills the world. Concerning this, they said, just like the neshama fills the body, so Hashem fills the world. So in a similar vein, as a contrast to that, so in addition to the neshama filling the body and the godly light that fills the worlds, there's the level that encompasses all the worlds. That's a transcendent, encompassing light. Because it's beyond measure and boundary, it cannot come down in an internalized light. Specifically in a way of a light that's makif. Let's explain in Tanya. It's not something that encompasses and surrounds it from outside. In Perek Memches he says it doesn't mean it's literally outside the thing and is not found in there. Just the opposite. The Oyer Makif is found through and through in the creation. The idea why it's called Makif is it transcends our comprehension. We cannot grasp and understand it. Now, from the way Hashem runs the world in a miraculous fashion by seeing the miracles of Hashem that He does in the world, we recognize the idea of the greatness of the Creator in an even higher way than we recognize the greatness of Hashem through the way how Hashem runs the world by nature. For this reason, this idea that a miracle reveals to us and helps us tap into the higher level of the Eibishter is the same reason why only for miracles do we recite Hal. As opposed to the normal, natural way of the Hashem running the world, even though it's a power of Hashem, and even though it's a revelation of His godliness, and even the level of Haniyah Vaylosh is revealed through it, still in all, it doesn't cause us to say Hallel for nature. And not just doesn't it cause us, but we're not allowed to. Reading Hallel daily, it's considered, not only is he not praising, it's considered the opposite of praise. I imagine because it's like making fun of something that's a very simple thing. Like, for example, if you ask someone to, I don't know, pass you a pen or a napkin, and then you like give him such amazing shvachim, and you say, you're so amazing, you're such a bal chesed and such a bal tzedakah that you passed me down the napkin. a person that would hear that would think that you're poking fun at that person. You're not really praising him. So the same thing, perhaps, is that meaning of that Maimer Chazal, that someone that says Hallel b'chol yom, it's not a praise, it's the opposite of praise. So we see, but the main point is that we see that praise is only applicable for Hallel. The special tefillah of Hallel is only applicable by a miracle. Until the way of the way Hashem runs things in a miraculous way. There's also a miracle that's in the way that's explained in the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov on the pasuk. It says it's a time of trouble and affliction for Yaakov, and from it, the meaning of this pasuk, the Baal Shem Tov says, from the very salvation comes out of the tzara, not from it, meaning he leaves the tzara behind, but rather the tzara itself becomes his salvation. That the combination of the letters for the word tzara changes to make up by moving the letters around. Instead of tzara becomes a ratzah, that Hashem's will is now in concert with what we need. And until the letters are changed around to tzoyar. Tzoyar means an illumination, a light shining in, and so on, from the word tzoharayim. So that's even beyond a regular miracle, taking the negative itself, and that itself being the cause and the source of salvation, that is so much more powerful. That's the idea of transforming darkness to light and bitter to sweet. Here we go into avoida. Just like we said that the hanhaga tivis, the way the world runs in the normal fashion, that's the avoida of tzaddikim. So the avoida in a way of, or the hanhaga nisis is reflected in the avoida of the Baal Tshuva. Because the Baal Tshuva does the same thing, like the Eis Tzara Lihilyankiv Umimena Yivasheh, the transformative nature of the Baal Tshuva, Shesdoinis Nasla Kizaki is top of page Yud base, that the very intentional sins itself becomes for him like merit. And not just that, but just like we said, that Anhagen Nisis, this miraculous way that Hashem runs the world, even though we said there's two paths. So it seems to be, one might think that they are parallel and they are the same. There's one way Hashem runs the world in a natural way, and one way the Eibusher runs the world in a supernatural way. But we say, no, it's not that way. He said that the supernatural way comes from a higher level. That's the level of Soviv Kalaman. That's a completely above and beyond level than the way Hashem runs the world in a natural way, because that's limited and that's allows for the possibility of change, like we said. So in a similar vein, the two types of avoida that correspond to it, the avoida of tzaddikim versus the avoida of Baal Tshuva, it's not just two ways, but just like the hanhaga nisis, the miraculous way of running the world, is a way above beyond the natural way of running the world. So too, Varigodla Milos Baal Tshuva, it's so much greater, the quality of Baal Tshuva should be Mokim Amidosam than the place where Baal Tshuva stand. Afilu Tzadikim Gemurim Eino Michael Lamishon. Even complete Tzadikim that we said is the ultimate level. It's like Shleimus and Teva, the perfect level of Teva. Even great Tzadikim are not even able to stand over there, indicating this great chasm between these two types of hanhagas in avoida, the difference between tzaddikim and Baal Tshuva.